President Joe Biden claims he isn't prepared to decide whether to seek re-election. However, he rejected polls that had put doubt on his chances for success in 2024, asking Telemundo, "Do you know any polling that's true these days?" In a hypothetical 2024 race, former President Donald Trump would be ahead of Biden, but within the margin of error, according to recent research that indicated many Democrats would be delighted if he didn't run. To be clear, I think Biden has a strong chance of winning the Democratic nomination in the general election. However, I must defend the polling he targeted. On Tuesday, February 7, 2023, in Washington, President Joe Biden gives the State of the Union address to a joint session of Congress, while Vice President Kamala Harris and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy of California applaud. Via Reuters. Jacquelyn Martin poll in general, surveys have done an excellent job of predicting Biden's and the Democratic Party's electoral futures during the past few years, since they are instruments of the present, not crystal balls. Let's begin with the most recent election, where apparently bad polling performance occurred. Yes, several surveys did underrate Democratic candidates. However, the surveys that met CNN's requirements for release were extremely good. Over the final 21 days of the campaign, Republicans were up by around 1.5 points in the national polls that examined the generic congressional ballot. The nationwide House vote was ultimately won by Republicans by just under 3 points. If you eliminate uncontested elections, more Republicans than Democrats ran unopposed in House races. Last year, the final result would have likely been closer to a 2-point Republican advantage. The polling at the state level for 2022 was likewise above average. In gubernatorial elections, the average margin of error was roughly 3 points, and in U.S. Senate elections, it was less than 2.5 points. Since 1998, the average polling miss has been over 5 points. Of course, polls in 2020 constantly put Biden ahead of Trump. Even though those surveys were biased in favor of Biden and the Democrats, they correctly predicted their victory in that November's election. Since last year, numerous polls have showed that Trump would likely defeat Biden in a 2024 race. Biden is also lagging behind Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in certain surveys. No credible poll during the entire 2020 campaign had Trump ahead of Biden. Simply put, the polling now does not resemble that of when Biden won his first term. It appears to be becoming a lot worse for him. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, and former President Donald Trump. The fact that the general election is over 2 years away and that the polling numbers could significantly shift is good news for Biden. At this moment, the majority of general election polls fall inside the margin of error. You could easily see Biden's poll numbers rising as a result of the slowing of inflation and the sharp decline in petrol prices from much of last summer. I should also mention that Biden is likely in better health than polls showing Democrats don't want him to run again would imply. The straightforward explanation is that politics isn't an isolated event. Most voters don't mark their ballots in favor of or against a specific politician, unless it's a recall election in California. They are forced to pick among a variety of candidates. In the scant polling that compares Biden to other Democrats for 2024, he is far ahead on a national level. That could be a contributing factor in the absence of any credible presidential challengers. Remember that Biden's early lead in the 2020 Democratic primary was predicted by the same national primary polling. He remained in the lead for virtually the entire primary process, despite the fact that many voters were ready to write him off. In conclusion, I wouldn't write off Biden going into 2024. It's difficult to defeat an incumbent president. When they run for re-election, the majority succeed. However, Biden's dismal polling is probably a good reflection of where voters are at the moment.